Look, we need to have a serious talk. You're standing on the scale wondering why eating less and moving more suddenly stopped working, and you're thinking, did my metabolism just give up on me? Here's the truth. Your metabolism didn't break. Your cells went deaf. After menopause, your cells stop hearing the insulin signal. Fat gets locked inside, sugar piles up in your bloodstream, and your brain starts screaming for more food because nothing is reaching the engine. The medical industry waits until you're pre-diabetic and writes a prescription. Nobody bothers to tell you that one $20 plant compound used in Chinese medicine for 2,000 years does exactly what those death cells actually need. I'm Claudia, a licensed health psychologist and menopause wellness specialist. Today, we're counting down the 7 berberine benefits that wake your cells back up, all the way to the #1 switch that brings your metabolism fully back to life again. Let's get into it. Benefit number 7, the gut microbiome reset. Your gut bacteria undergo a massive shift after menopause because losing estrogen means your beneficial bacteria start to die off. When those good guys disappear, bad bacteria multiply, inflammation spikes, and your metabolism slows to a crawl. Most people assume the gut has nothing to do with belly fat, but that's actually completely backward. Here is what nobody told you. Your gut bacteria are responsible for producing the hormones that tell your brain when to stop eating. They create the neurotransmitters that keep your mood stable and the compounds that keep inflammation in check. When your estrogen levels tank, those good bacteria essentially starve to death, allowing the bad bacteria to take over and break the entire system. You can think of these bacteria like workers in a factory. When the right crew shows up, things run clean and fast, but when the wrong crowd takes over, everything starts backing up. Berberine acts like a specialized fuel that brings the right workers back to life. We're specifically looking to help a bacteria called Akkermansia muciniphila, which scientists often call the gut guardian because it protects your intestinal lining and talks directly to your immune system. When you use berberine to feed this guardian, your inflammation levels drop and your gut-brain axis, that vital communication line between your stomach and your head, finally starts working again. The research is pretty clear that berberine alters your microbiota composition while even helping to decrease the anxiety many women feel during the menopausal transition. That gut-brain connection is a very real thing. And when bad bacteria send out danger signals, your brain responds by holding on to every ounce of fat it can find. This is where menopause really changes the equation because estrogen used to keep those good bacteria thriving on its own. Now that it's gone, berberine restores that balance by feeding the very bacteria that estrogen used to protect. To get this right, you'll want to take 500 milligrams of berberine 3 times a day with your meals. It's vital to take it with foods that contain fiber, like vegetables, seeds, or whole grains, because berberine feeds the bacteria, and those bacteria need fiber to multiply. You could take it with a breakfast of eggs and toast, a salad at lunch, or a dinner packed with roasted vegetables. Even a snack like a handful of almonds and an apple or some Greek yogurt with berries works perfectly. I see 3 common mistakes here all the time. First, people take berberine on an empty stomach, which usually leads to a nasty upset stomach. Second, they don't eat enough fiber, so the berberine has nothing to work with to feed those good bugs. Finally, many women quit after just 2 weeks because they don't see a flat stomach yet, but you have to give this at least 3 months to really work. Take your first dose with breakfast and make sure you eat vegetables with every single meal for the next 7 days. Keep a simple log of your digestion and energy on a scale of 1 to 10, and you'll likely notice the bloating starts to fade by day 5. Now that your gut foundation is set, we have to deal with the inflammation running wild in the rest of your body. One thing before we move on. Everything I share on this channel, the nutrition, the training, the tracking, benefit number 6 is the shield that stops that fire before it ever reaches your belly. Benefit number 6, the inflammation shield. Estrogen has these natural anti-inflammatory powers that basically vanish the moment you hit menopause, and that is a huge problem. When that protection disappears, chronic inflammation starts driving everything from stubborn weight gain and joint pain to cardiovascular disease. You might have been told that hot flashes, night sweats, and constant aches are just part of getting older, but that belief is actually making your belly fat worse. Here is the thing. Inflammation is not an inevitable part of aging. It is a switch that you can actually turn off. Inside your cells, oxidative stress acts a lot like rust forming on metal, slowly eating away at your health from the inside out. You can think of berberine as the high-quality oil that prevents that rust from ever taking hold. When your inflammation is high, your body's alarm system is stuck on high alert, like a fire alarm that never stops ringing in your ears. Berberine finally steps in and turns down the volume so your system can relax. The biology here is pretty fascinating because when you lose estrogen, your immune system starts overreacting to every little threat it sees. Instead of a normal, proportional response to a stressor, your body launches a full-scale attack on itself. Berberine actually mimics the anti-inflammatory effects of estrogen at the cellular level, which is exactly why women over 50 often see much better results than younger women. Your body simply has a bigger inflammation problem to fix, and this supplement meets that need. Research into berberine shows it has incredibly strong antioxidant properties that go right to the heart of what drives menopausal symptoms. While we are still waiting on massive clinical trials specifically for hot flashes, the science on how berberine reduces oxidative stress is already crystal clear. It tackles the core drivers of the discomfort you are feeling every day. So, what do you actually do with this information? To get the best results, you want to pair your berberine with vitamin E or vitamin C to amplify that antioxidant effect. The target is 500 milligrams taken 3 times a day, always with your meals. You could take your berberine with a glass of orange juice at breakfast or try it with a handful of almonds at lunch since they are packed with vitamin E. At dinner, it works great with a big spinach salad, or you can even mix it into your routine with some strawberries and yogurt or a few sunflower seeds. Now, listen this. Never take berberine on its own without any antioxidant-rich food, because that specific combination is what really moves the needle. Don't expect your hot flashes to vanish overnight, when in reality, this process usually takes about 4 to 6 weeks to kick in. For this week, your goal is to add just 1 vitamin C or vitamin E food to every single berberine dose you take. Start tracking your joint pain and hot flash frequency on a scale of 1 to 10 so you can see the progress. By the time you hit day 21, those inflammation markers really start to shift, and most women notice their joint stiffness fading away first. Now that you have turned down the internal fire of inflammation, your brain can finally start to heal. Benefit number 5 is the mood anchor that helps stop the anxiety and depression that menopause so often creates. And here's something 20 years of research has made painfully obvious to me. Health industry have built their entire profit model on women over 40 never understanding what I just showed you. That's why I teach the real programs inside my school community. Link in the description. Come check it out. Okay, moving on. Benefit number 5, the mood and anxiety anchor. It is a staggering statistic, but 15 to 50% of women going through perimenopause experience depressive symptoms. If you are feeling this, please hear me. This is not a sign of weakness, and it is definitely not all in your head. Those wild hormone fluctuations are destroying your levels of serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, which are the 3 main chemicals your brain needs to feel stable. When those levels crash, your mood crashes right along with them, and food often becomes the only way to cope. Your body starts screaming for sugar and carbs just to spike that dopamine back up, which locks you into a frustrating cycle of weight gain. I know what you are probably thinking right now. There is no way a simple supplement can fix my mood. But stay with me on this. Berberine actually targets the exact same 3 neurotransmitters that many prescription antidepressants do. It does not work by forcing new chemicals into your brain. Instead, it simply stops your natural feel-good chemicals from leaving your system too quickly. Think of your brain as having a cleanup crew called MAO, or monoamine oxidase, whose job is to remove serotonin and dopamine to keep things balanced. After menopause, this crew starts working overtime and becomes way too aggressive. If you picture your mood chemicals as water in a bathtub, MAO is the drain at the bottom. When that drain is pulled wide open, the water empties out before you can enjoy it. But berberine acts like a plug for that drain. It slows down the cleanup crew so those happy chemicals stay in your system much longer. The research shows that berberine's impact on these monoamine levels is significant, and the gut-brain connection plays a huge role here too. When your gut bacteria are healthy, they actually produce neurotransmitters that travel straight to your brain to help you feel calm. Berberine fixes both ends of the problem by feeding the good bacteria in your gut while simultaneously slowing the drain on your brain's mood chemicals. This is where the menopause equation really changes, because estrogen used to be the thing helping your brain hold on to those chemicals. Without that hormonal support, everything drains away too fast. But berberine offers a non-hormonal way to keep your mood steady. It works through natural neurotransmitter regulation rather than trying to add estrogen back into a system that is moving past it. Make sure you add 1 omega-3 food to your berberine dose, and by week 3, you should notice your anxiety levels dropping significantly. Most women report that they are finally sleeping better by day 21. Your mood is stabilizing and your brain is finally healing. So now it is time to protect the organ that keeps you alive. Benefit number 4 is the heart health insurance that menopause tried to take away from you. Benefit number 4, the heart health insurance that menopause tried to take away from you. After menopause, cardiovascular disease actually becomes the #1 killer of women, even surpassing cancer and every other cause you might worry about. The protective shield that estrogen once provided for your blood vessels basically disappears, which causes your cholesterol and triglycerides to climb while your LDL hardens and your HDL drops. The result is a heart disease risk that effectively doubles overnight. Most of us have been told that heart health is strictly about genetics, and while your family history definitely matters, that belief is only half the story. Here's the thing. Multiple studies have shown that berberine can lower cholesterol just as effectively as prescription statins. To understand how this works, think of LDL cholesterol as delivery trucks carrying fat into your arteries, while HDL cholesterol acts like the cleanup crew, removing that fat. Triglycerides are the extra fuel your body stores when blood sugar stays too high. So when you have those sugar spikes, the triglycerides accumulate and the LDL trucks start to multiply. Eventually, the roads get clogged, but berberine clears that congestion by improving how your body handles all 3 of those factors at once. In one study of 120 postmenopausal women, taking berberine alongside isoflavones led to a 13.5% drop in total cholesterol and a 12.4% dip in LDL. Even more impressive was the 18.9% drop in triglycerides, and a UCLA Health comparison of over 4,600 patients found no meaningful difference in results between berberine and statins. Since estrogen isn't there to protect your vessel walls anymore, inflammation can cause real damage, and berberine steps in to lower the cholesterol that tries to build up on those vulnerable areas. This benefit is vital after age 50 because your cardiovascular risk doubles compared to men your age, making this a non-negotiable part of your toolkit. Before I continue, if you're getting value from this, please hit the like button. So every like you leave is a small signal to the algorithm that this matters, and it helps me reach another woman who needs to hear it. Benefit number 3, the visceral fat target. Now that you've protected your heart and stabilized your mood, it's time to target the fat that probably started this whole journey for you. Menopausal weight gain isn't just about having more fat, it's about that fat moving specifically to your belly, which is the most stubborn kind to lose. We're talking about visceral fat, the dangerous stuff that wraps around your liver, pancreas, and intestines rather than just sitting softly under your skin. This fat is deep inside your abdomen, and it's metabolically active, meaning it's constantly pumping out inflammation and hunger hormones that keep you stuck. It's incredibly sticky and hard to move without the right metabolic trigger, and many women wrongly assume berberine can't target this specific area, so they never even try. But the science is actually very clear on this, as research consistently shows that berberine leads to a real reduction in waist circumference. You can picture visceral fat like a security guard blocking the exit. Your body wants to release that fat, but the combination of high insulin and low estrogen keeps the door locked. Berberine essentially moves that guard out of the way, signaling to your body that it is finally safe to release that stored energy from your organs. One obesity study showed an average weight loss of 5 pounds over 12 weeks using 500 milligrams 3 times a day. Dr. Amy Tung also documented that 550 milligrams twice daily for 60 days reduced BMI and belly fat, specifically in women going through the menopause transition. You just have to be patient, as these results typically show up after 2 or 3 months of being consistent. The rest of this segment explains the metabolic lie that keeps you holding on to that stubborn belly fat. Watch closely. The reason this matters so much for us is that estrogen used to keep our fat distributed evenly, but without it, visceral fat becomes the body's default storage unit. Your system prioritizes this organ-wrapping fat because it reads your changing hormones as a sign of scarcity. Berberine compensates for that missing estrogen by telling your body to burn that visceral fat first, which is why women over 50 often see better waistline changes than younger women do. Avoid the mistake of only watching the scale, because visceral fat loss shows up in your measurements long before the weight drops. Also, don't rely on cardio alone, as lifting weights makes the berberine much more effective. Most importantly, don't quit after a month just because the scale hasn't moved, because your waist circumference is the metric that actually matters. After this video, I want you to take a measuring tape and check your waist right at the belly button. Then write that number down. Take your first dose with breakfast and commit to measuring again in 4 weeks. Most women see some reduction by week 8, and that's when you know the measurements are finally shifting because your cells are finally listening to the insulin signal again. Pay attention. What I'm about to say matters. I can give people the exact steps and still they come back with excuses. That's why I created this plan. It's your path to success. Now we are at benefit number 2, the insulin resistance solution. Insulin resistance is the real reason menopausal belly fat feels so impossible to lose. As your estrogen levels drop, your cells basically stop listening to insulin, which means the exact same diet that worked for you at 35 completely fails by the time you hit 50. When insulin stays high, it acts like a physical lock on your fat cells. And here is the hard truth. You cannot simply starve your way out of a hormonal lockdown. Most of us have been told our entire lives that weight loss is just about eating less. But that old belief is actually making your belly fat worse. When your insulin is chronically high, your body is chemically unable to release fat no matter how little you eat. So you could practically eat nothing and your system would still refuse to burn its stored energy because the lock has been changed. Think of insulin as the key that is supposed to unlock your fat cells. But insulin resistance means your cells have warped the lock mechanism until the key no longer fits. This leaves fat trapped inside where you can't use it, and because your body can't access its own fuel, Eating less just makes you feel hungrier and more exhausted. Berberine works by essentially fixing the hinges on that lock so your natural keys can finally start working again. We track this progress using a score called HOMA-IR, which measures exactly how resistant your cells have become to your own hormones. When that score is high, you are effectively trapped in storage mode. But as berberine brings that number down, your metabolism is finally set free. In one 12-week clinical trial, researchers tracked patients with metabolic syndrome who took 300 milligrams of berberine 3 times a day. By the end, their average BMI dropped from 31.5 down to 27.4, and their levels of leptin, the hormone that tells your brain you're full, fell significantly. Even UCLA Health research has noted that berberine can be just as effective as common medications like metformin for controlling blood sugar. Back when you had plenty of estrogen, your cells were naturally sensitive to insulin, but losing that hormone made them stubborn and resistant. Berberine restores that lost sensitivity by fixing the cellular lock, which is why I call insulin resistance the ultimate bottleneck for women in menopause. Once you clear this specific hurdle, every other part of your health starts moving in the right direction. I see 3 common mistakes that stall progress. The first is taking the supplement without changing what you eat, because while berberine is powerful, it's meant to amplify your good habits, not replace them. Second, don't cancel out the benefits by washing it down with sugary drinks or processed snacks. Finally, don't expect your biology to flip overnight, as reversing years of resistance usually takes a solid 8 to 12 weeks of consistency. Try this for 1 week. Take your berberine with every single meal and make sure you have protein and greens on your plate. Benefit number 1, the AMPK Metabolic Master Switch. This brings us to the number 1 most important benefit of all. While we've talked about gut health, inflammation, and heart protection, this final piece is what actually powers the other 6. Berberine activates something called AMPK, which is the metabolic master switch sitting inside every single one of your cells. When AMPK is flipped on, your body receives a direct signal to stop making new fat and start burning what you already have. This is the same switch that gets activated when you exercise or go through a fast, and you can think of it as the main power button for your body's fat-burning machinery. AMPK acts as a fuel sensor for your cells by constantly checking to see how much energy you have available. When fuel runs low, AMPK wakes up and tells your mitochondria to start burning stored fat. But when fuel is plentiful, the switch stays off and your body goes into storage mode. The problem is that after menopause, this switch tends to stay in the off position, but berberine effectively wakes it back up. Research published in Frontiers shows that activating AMPK reduces fat production and improves insulin sensitivity across the board. In some animal studies, this led to significant weight loss even without changing how much food was eaten, because the supplement actually turned down the genes that create fat. People sometimes call berberine nature's Ozempic, and while the chemistry is different, the result of shifting your body out of storage mode is very real. The decline of estrogen naturally suppresses your AMPK activity, which means your metabolic engine is idling even when you're trying your best. Berberine compensates for that hormonal loss by manually turning the switch back on, which is exactly why women over 50 tend to see such a dramatic response. Without this master switch being active, the other benefits we discussed only work at about 30% of their full capacity. Your body will keep trying to manufacture fat even if your insulin is under control, simply because the internal signal to burn hasn't been triggered yet. You have to accept that your metabolism didn't actually break when you turned 50, it just lost its primary power source. 6 months from now, you could be burning fat at the same rate you did in your 30s, making your energy feel effortless because you've stopped fighting against your own biology. You must be careful. Berberine can interact with medications for diabetes, blood pressure, or blood thinners, And it is definitely not for women who are pregnant or breastfeeding. Always check with your doctor first to make sure it's the right fit for your specific health profile. So those are the 7 berberine benefits that wake your sleeping cells back up. Here's the thing. Berberine is powerful, but you can take it 3 times a day for 6 months and still not lose a single inch off your waist if your daily habits are quietly canceling it out. 6 things I genuinely thought were healthy were actually keeping my belly fat locked in. So in my next video, I break down the 6 habits I thought were healthy that were actually growing my belly fat. I'll show you exactly which habits to drop, why they sabotage your insulin, and the simple swap I personally made for each one.